welcome. Thank you all for being here. This is the first of what will be a series of 6 different sessions we're going to have on various parts of the variable compensation plan. When we did the VCP survey this year, we typically get anywhere from 6 to 10 responses, and this year we got almost 50 responses. So we do really appreciate you guys participating in that and giving us some good feedback, some positive feedback, some constructive criticism feedback, which we will appreciate and always listen to. One of the questions we asked was, what's one part of the VCP that you would like more training on? And salary determination was by far the #1 answer. So that's why we're starting with this topic. From now through the end of the year, we will be covering, this is the schedule for the rest of the year in terms of training from class comp. So next Thursday instead of Friday, because of Veterans Day, we'll do it on Thursday, but we're going to cover title changes. We're going to cover, I know the initial topic for November 18th was called promotions, but I think there's been, just in the past couple of weeks, lots of questions about lateral transfers and demotions as well, and salary determination for that. So we're going to just change the title from promotions to transfers. In-range adjustments, everything else, including additional comp and retro pays and things like that. And then there'll be a big question and answer session on the 16th. There'll be questions and answers after each one of these individually, but then I know some of you introverts like to process the information and write down your questions and save them for later. So we'll have a session on the 16th that's dedicated just to questions and answers about any topic we've covered over the course of this. Like I said, these are all be recorded. They'll be on our YouTube page. So you'll be able to access these at any point in time. In addition to what's on our YouTube page, a lot of y'all got the email from communications yesterday with a short 2-minute, 3-minute video from Crystal on documentation required for transactions. Everybody get that? Everybody had a chance to look at it? No? I only see 2 people, so and one of them shaking their head. So I'm going, and one shaking their head, yes. So we got 50-50 here. But Brittany sent out a link yesterday from communications that had what is video 1 of what will be numerous videos that we're going to do, short 2-3-minute videos on small topics that you might find helpful down the road. So, all right. So salary determination, let's talk about it. All right. So as y'all know, we have 3 pay plans right now. We have the Mississippi General Pay Plan, which is what most employees fall under. We have the Medical Services Pay Plan, which is where our direct health, most of our direct health job classes fall. And then we have the Information Technology Pay Plan for all of our job classifications within the IT occupational group. We did have an executive plan that just confused everyone, so we got rid of it. We've been in conversations. Malika, Daniel, Hearn, and I got to go to South Dakota a couple weeks ago, and there's some interesting things going on with a couple other industries that have their own pay plans that are outside of the general pay plan. So we've talked to our board about that. We're exploring some options for some other pay plans down the road, probably for next FY. A lot of states, for example, have a separate pay plan just for law enforcement, and so a lot of states have that. So we're exploring those options for FY 2024. Within each pay plan, as you know, every pay plan has a set number of pay grades. For the Mississippi pay plan, it's 20. For IT, it's 12, and for medical, it's 11. All of these pay plans have a minimum market maximum salary. All right. So these are the 4 salary zones. Zone 1 and 2 are up to market for minimum up to market. Zone 3 is up to 10% above market, and Zone 4 is the highest level from the top of Zone 3 up to the maximum. Salary decisions in Zone 1 or 2 are really made at the agency level. We do, if it looks funny in terms of a salary for equity's sake, we will ask about that, but ultimately y'all make those decisions. Zone 3 requires personnel board pre-approval, and then Zone 4 requires our board's approval. We've, through the course of the first 10 months, we were very strict on Zone 4. We had a board retreat in October, and we kicked around a few ideas for maybe freeing up Zone 4 a little more. We're going to present some policy revisions to our board in November that might give that are going to give a few more options to move into Zone 4 outside of what's currently available to you. So that's coming. But right now, and even in the future, if it doesn't fall into one of those provisions, it will still require our board's approval for Zone 4. These are the Zone 4 automatic qualifiers. They, if an employee has or falls into one of these categories, they are pre-approved by our board to go into Zone 4. And they are not bound by the 10% maximum for in-range adjustments. So for title changes and transfers and determining agency salary, so the total maximum increase for a title change or transfer is 15%. All right, and, there are exceptions, like if you go from the general pay plan to the medical pay plan, you have a direct care worker who gets their LPN license. They can get more, and they move to the medical pay plan, they can get more than 15%. If you have an LPN who gets their RN license, they can get more than 15%. But other than that, it's capped at 15%. And what you should be considering when you're trying to decide how much am I going to pay this person after the title change or the promotion, these are some things we feel like should be considered in determining that salary. How many pay grades are we going up? Are we going up one pay grade? Is it going from a 10 to an 11, or is it going from a 10 to a 15? Where the employee's salary is going to fall within the new pay grade. Is it going to fall, in Zone 1 and they've been there a long time and maybe should be in Zone 2, that kind of thing. The knowledge, skills, and abilities of that employee. Obviously, you wouldn't be doing a title change or promotion on them if they weren't at least pretty good employee. But if they're excellent, you might give them the full 15. If they're, above average, you might give them 10. That's up to you. That's up to you guys. Then their performance. And then also, and most important, is the equity with their peers in the new job class. So if you're deciding on a salary for a new employee going from an accountant 1 to an accountant 2, you need to be looking at your current accountant 2s and how this person's education, experience, performance, licenses, certifications, whatever it is that's important to you as an agency compares to your current accountant 2s, and setting that salary somewhere, I don't want to say equal, but equitable with their peers. Okay. For in-range adjustments, as you know, they're capped at 10% per fiscal year. We reviewed these types of requests for equity among peers in the same job classification prior to approval. Again, the whole point of this is y'all make the decision. We just make sure it's equitable. That's really y'all's call on a lot of these. Demotions, this has come up recently quite a bit, and I just want to reiterate this, that for a voluntary demotion where they're going back to the same job class they left within 12 months, they go back to the salary they left at. Now, the only exception to if they were going back to a job class that you had just done pay raises for everybody in that job class, you can set that salary equal to what you're paying everyone else. After 12 months and for involuntary demotions due to discipline, you're going to set that salary somewhere with their peers, equitable with their peers. Again, there's no more demotional formula, old salary minus new salary, starting salaries added to the current. It's what is an equitable salary for somebody you're having to demote for disciplinary reasons. That's what we're looking at. Other considerations. All right, so for setting salaries for new hires, when you set the minimum and maximum salary on your requisitions for a job posting, you really need to consider what your actual minimum and actual maximum are for your agency specifically. There's a lot of agencies who are posting just the minimum salary for the pay range when they want to pay more. There's people who post all the way from minimum to maximum. There's people who post minimum to market. But that number should be decided by you based on what you're paying current staff and what you're willing to pay a new person. It doesn't have to be the minimum for the job class, the market, the maximum. It should be a legitimate salary of what you as an agency are willing to pay for that job. Okay. and this has come up quite a bit with several agencies, where agencies will post the minimum salary for a job of just 36,624 is the minimum for a pay grade 8, for example, I think, or pay grade 9. But then you want to hire somebody at the market salary when you posted your maximum salary as the minimum. And so that gives us some level of concern, because if you like in that example, and hopefully this will pull up on the right screen. Yeah. So in that example, if you were to post it at the minimum pay grade 8 of 30, or pay grade 9, 36,624, and then want to hire somebody at market of 48, we're gonna probably ask some serious questions about that, because you posted a job at 36 and now you're going to pay a new person 48. And our heartburn for this comes from how many people didn't apply for the job at 36.6 but would have applied for the job had you posted that you were willing to pay up to 48. So that's why when we give you pushback on that, it's because there are people who did not apply for your job thinking they were only going to make 36 that would have applied for your job at 48. Okay. So it's just making sure we have the best applicant pool. So when you make that decision on your requisition of how much your minimum and maximum are, it should be based on what you're actually willing to pay. All right, and like the last bullet point says, don't post a market of you'll pay up to 48,000 if everybody in that job class is making 40. You know, you're going to want to pay something equitable to a new hire to what your current employees are making. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense to you. But you should be posting a maximum salary that's far greater than what you're paying your current employees. Let's see, for those actions where the agency has discretion. So this has become an issue, and you know, our job, and my staff knows this, and we've drilled this into them a lot, is it's not our job to say if a salary is equitable. It's our job to make sure you've made the case as to why it is. So when you put a salary increase in there for an in-range adjustment or a title change or a promotion, comments in EC explaining equity on the front end is a huge help. This is how we determined our salary. Yes, we're paying this accountant more, but they have this licensure, they have an MBA, and none of my other staff have an MBA, and that's why we're paying this person more. Yet we don't care necessarily about your rationale in determining that salary. We just need to have the rationale in the comments, because otherwise, I mean, I know a lot of y'all have gotten actions sent back with just the question of, from me, of just how is this equitable? And then you put in a comment and you explain it, you do a great job explaining it, and then it's approved. So doing that on the front end will cut down on the back and forth of sending things back in Employee Central. Like the second bullet point says, you know, it's not our job to, if it's equitable, it's have you considered equity in this determination of how you make this salary? If you make a reasonable case as to why it is equitable, we're going to count that as sufficient and push it through. Okay. But having that in the comments on the front end would be hugely helpful in us having to send things back to you and then you resubmitting them to us. And it bogs down the process. It slows it down for you guys and for us having to look at things 2 or 3 times. So anything to make that process smoother would be great. But just said, I don't need 17 paragraphs about why it's equitable. You know, a couple of sentences just stating, we've considered the current staff and this is why we feel like this is an appropriate salary. That's all we really need. Okay. So this is the first topic. I will now stop presenting and open it up for questions. You can either put them in the chat or unmute yourself and fire away.
Hey, Ron, we have a question.
Yes, sir.
When we are promoting somebody and the minimum salary of the job is more than 15% of where they are, what do we do? We're not paying them below start, right?
Right. So you're right. Sorry. Yes. So that is correct. So, and that's actually going to be covered in the transfer one, but I'm glad we'll go ahead and talk about it now. By law, by your appropriation bill, everyone has to be paid the minimum salary. So if the 15% does not get them to minimum, you can go ahead and pay them the minimum for the new job class.
And is that additional going to count against their 10% for progression through the year?
Yes.
Hey, Ryan, circling back on that, why would that not be an equity increase for that last gap period, that last gap of money?
Well, I mean, I don't really care how you put that in the system, whether it's equity or an interrange adjustment or a progression. I mean, it's still getting them to minimum.
But I mean, if it's an equity, it wouldn't eat into their 10% though, would it?
Yeah.
It would? Okay.
Hey, Ryan, I have a question.
Sure.
How do you suggest training people on the mindset of just because we just brought them up to minimum, they're still eligible for a salary increase?
Well, I'll tell you that a lot of your peers on this call right now have had no qualms about doing that. There are some people who were greatly below minimum. I mean, I'm thinking like IT people, for example, where some people got, $10, $15, $20,000 on July 1st that they've been employed, 15, 20 years and should be closer to market than just at the minimum. So agencies are going ahead and giving them another 5%, 8%, 10% already this year. So I think the argument, the best argument or the best case is there are some people in state government we've grossly underpaid for a very long time. And so they got a significant increase to minimum, but just because they got moved to minimum doesn't mean they're not deserving of something else.
Okay, one more real quick question. We've had the situation where we have 2 employees that are retiring this fiscal year that we did not know about and didn't plan for. So their payout for their 240 hours is eating into some of that salary money. What do you suggest?
That's probably, and I know some of them are on this call, that's probably a question for your elbow analyst. Because the number on your compliance report comes straight from elbow. And I get it, for an agency your size, 2 long-term employees who are probably making a pretty decent salary, get a 240-hour check is going to eat into a lot of your year-to-date money. It just is. I mean, there's no getting around that. We're not big enough to where that didn't impact us when we had 2 June 30th retirement, when Jan Sims retired. I mean, that's a long tenured employee that had a really good salary. That eats into a huge chunk of it. So if you get to a point where that does throw you out of compliance, I wouldn't necessarily work with elbow until it becomes an issue. But if that's the only reason why you're going to have to go out, I think they would be willing to talk to you about making an accommodation for that.
Thank you.
I got a question in the chat. If an employee was above minimum at 7-1, but has a master's degree, would there be an option for an increase? So every employee is eligible for up to 10% every fiscal year for whatever reason the agency decides they want to. And so if you wanted to pay them more money, you certainly can, but that they're no different than anyone else. As long as you're doing it, in an equitable manner, we're not going to get involved in how you made that determination, as long as there was some thought into equity before you did it.
just so I'm clear, our goal is to get everyone to market.
Your
Correct?
goal or my goal? Your goal or my goal?
Let's go with my goal.
Your goal is to get everyone to market. Okay, that's a noble goal.
Okay. What's
So
your
what's the
goal?
question? What's the question?
Well, I mean, when we're talking about these increases,
Mhm.
we're going to be equitable based on positions and length of service and those type of things. But is our goal to give them 10%, or is our goal the end goal? Is it to get them to market level?
The end goal, and if Ryan Beard was benevolent dictator and could do whatever he wanted to, if you had 100, let's see, you're the contractors board, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. So if you had 100 inspectors that were inspecting contractors, investigators, if I took the average salary of all of your investigators, that average would be somewhere around the market. So your longer tenured, better performers should be above market, and your newer employees or not so great performers would be below market. But the average would come somewhere around the market salary.
Gotcha. Thanks.
So, and that's what I would advise, because if everybody makes market, then we have a equal situation, not necessarily an equitable situation. Because your longer tenured, better employees should be making more than your shorter tenured, not as high performing employees.
Understood.
I think you're getting questions in the chat.
Yeah. So I'm not sure which part you missed, Sharon, but you could elaborate on what part you missed. I might can better do that. Is the board going to look at social worker salaries again? They are still low compared to the market. Yeah, I would imagine that's the case for a lot of y'all feel that way about the job classes. At least some of them. Yeah, we're going to look at them every 2 years. We're going to look at every job class. Every other year, we're going to look at market rates and things like that. I still don't think it's out of the realm of possibility for us to increase the market rates again this fiscal year. We've already done it once. I think realistically, they probably need to move again. But again, 23, we will be surveying all 641 job classes again and making recommendations for if jobs need to change pay grades and things like that. But not just for social workers.
I was just going to say, we would reiterate that, yes, because of 9% inflation, it would be fantastic if they would allow y'all to move market zone 3 and zone 4, and hopefully even minimum up 10% for the next fiscal year, because I mean, inflation is eating up anything we've been able to do for our staff this year.
Yeah, and that was a common theme at the conference I mentioned that we went to, and that's both I don't think anybody's public or private sector is immune from that. The minimum's a little more tricky. Moving the market, which would then impact zone 3 and the maximum, are a little easier because we're not obligating you as an agency or the legislature to fund it. Moving the minimums, and just we're working closely with Legislative Budget Office and legislative leadership on the minimums and what there may or may not need to be a move in the minimums, but that's going to require funding. If we're going to continue to say that people can't make below the minimum, moving the minimum 10% is going to be very expensive. So that's going to require funding and like direct funding from the legislature to do that. And so, yeah. The 10% cap keeps us from getting them even near the market if they move to minimum on 7-1. Right. And as has kind of been kind of our stance, you know, the old plan wasn't funded for 15 years. Some of these people were below minimum 4 months ago. I can't move them from below minimum to market in a single fiscal year. This is going to take a couple of fiscal years of 10% to begin to catch people up to where they realistically should be. So yeah, I get it, Robin, that it would take a couple of 10% to get them to market, but that shouldn't stop you from making progress towards getting them to market over the next couple of years.
So we have, employees in the same job class, just kind of all over the place, just because of their different, how long they've been here over the course of their career. And so when we're wanting to, somebody's already gotten 10% for the year, but it's not gotten them more even with the people with the same experience. So when we're doing a promotion and doing a salary increase, and part of our equity justification could just be that we are aware that other people this is not necessarily in line, but we're working on getting the others up to a higher level, we can't.
So something that big, and I'm not sure who I'm talking to, but besides MDRS guest, but
Jessica Dykes.
Hi, Jessica. Okay. So for something that big, where we're talking about, we're looking at doing, every voc rehab counselor, let's just say. We probably want to have a conversation about that plan. And so we know that we get a one-off, or, we get 10 of them and we ask, well, what about the other 100? We're not having to constantly go back and forth with you about that. Is to sit down with you guys and figure out what the plan is, and then make sure that those requests are falling in line with that plan. And that's not, we've done that with MDOT, we've done that with mental health and several other people for these huge groups of people. As long as there's a plan that we've gone over and addressed and agreed to, then we won't have that issue. But that'd be a great conversation to have with you guys if y'all are looking at going that route. So we're not sending them back, because like I said, if you do 10 and not the other 100, then we're going to ask questions. But if we have a plan in place that we are all on the same page with, and this is just step one of all 100 of them, then we shouldn't have an issue with that.
Well, we always target the entirety of that job class if we're going to do that. We're not going to pick and choose at that big macro level. But sometimes when people come into that classification, there's some salary structure issues that getting them to where everybody else is, we just need a clear understanding of how we can make sure that we know it doesn't have to be equal, but equitable with the people in the classification they're going into.
But when they're going into a classification where the people aren't necessarily equitable yet, just because of.
Yeah, you might have one or two people that might have a $30 difference for whatever reason. And we don't want it to hamstring new people coming into that role, I guess is her question.
I don't think, and I don't expect a response to this, but I don't think we would have any problem with there being a $30 difference in salaries. To me, $30 is, you would have a very hard time saying that that's inequitable within $30 of a salary.
Okay.
All right, going once. Going twice? Going 3 times. All right. So that was 36 minutes and we started 5 minutes at 10:05. So it's really 30 minutes. That's a good number. All right. So we'll do this again next Thursday. We will cover title changes. If you haven't watched the video from Crystal from yesterday, it's on our YouTube page. I think Brittany put a comment in the chat that if you didn't get it and would like to get a copy of it, email her at communications and she'll get it to you. But it covers, I think it's documentation required for certain types of transactions for, non-state service transfers and for, title changes and promotions and all that kind of, like what documents are required. So it's a little short, quick video that just kind of covers the basics of what documentation we're looking for at the personnel board. So if there's nothing else, I will see you next Thursday. Appreciate y'all's time and y'all have a great weekend.
Thank you, Ron.
Thanks,
Sure
guys.
thing.
Thank you.
See you later.
Thank you, Ryan.